when my fiancé, Daniel, and I decided to host our wedding ceremony in our backyard. We knew it would take a bit of extra planning. What we didn't anticipate was dealing with Karen, yes. That kind of Karen, who also happened to be the self-appointed enforcer of the neighborhood HOA. She wasn't the president, the treasurer, or even an official volunteer. She was simply the loudest complainer with enough confidence to act like she ran the place. We had lived in the neighborhood for 2 years without incident. Mostly because we kept to ourselves. But the moment our wedding preparations became visible, tents, flower deliveries, catering trucks, Karen seemed to awaken like a dragon, disturbed from centuries of slumber. She marched over the afternoon before the event, arms crossed, lips pursed so tightly they practically disappeared. I was arranging the seating chart when her shadow eclipsed the sunlight. "Are you the one organizing this event?" she demanded. I forced a polite smile. "Yes. The wedding is tomorrow." Karen inspected the yard like she was evaluating a crime scene. "You do know we have strict noise policies." "Very strict. I'll need your guest list, your schedule, and confirmation that the music will end by 6 p.m. I blinked. "The ceremony starts at 6. She gasped as though I'd confessed to arson. "Absolutely not. Quiet hours begin at 7. And I will call the HOA board and the police if I hear so much as a whisper past that time." It was absurd. Other neighbors hosted barbecues until midnight. Kids rode scooters at all hours. And I'd heard Karen's own dog barking nonstop during thunderstorms. But weddings were apparently a personal offense to her. Daniel joined us, wrapping an arm around my shoulders. "Everything okay?" Karen turned her intensity toward him. "I'm informing you of the rules. Your party will be shut down immediately if you violate them." Daniel's smile faded. "It's our wedding. And we already submitted all the required permits." "The HOA doesn't issue permits," she snapped. "No," he replied, "but the county does. And they already approved the event." Karen stiffened. She clearly wasn't expecting resistance. "Well, we'll see about that." With that, she spun on her heel and stormed off, muttering something about people with no respect. We spent the rest of the day feeling a mixture of anger and disbelief. It was supposed to be a joyful time, final touches on flowers, speeches, music playlists, but Karen's threat loomed over everything. Would she actually try to sabotage our wedding? Would she call the police on us? We didn't know. But we were about to find out. The morning of the wedding started beautifully. The sky was a clear blue, birds were chirping. And the early sun warmed the grass as the catering team set up the final pieces. I tried to focus on the excitement of the day. But every so often I caught myself glancing toward Karen's house across the street, half expecting her to appear with a clipboard and a megaphone. By noon, our families began arriving. My mother bustled around helping the florist while Daniel's father checked the audio system. Every time someone laughed or even shut a car door, I found myself tensing, waiting for Karen to explode out of her house like a jack-in-the-box powered by rage. But she didn't appear. Not yet. By 4 p.m., the yard looked magical. White chairs lined the aisle. Soft music drifted through the speakers. And the catering team passed out lemonade and finger foods. I felt myself relax for the first time since Karen's threat. Then, as if summoned by peace itself, she arrived. Karen marched across the street in full battle mode. She wore a sun hat, oversized sunglasses, and a neon orange vest that I can only assume she believed granted her some kind of security authority. In her hand was a walkie-talkie, and I swear she clicked it every few seconds, even though nobody was on the other end. "I need to inspect the premises," she announced loudly. A few guests exchanged confused looks. My aunt whispered, "Is she part of the entertainment?" Daniel stepped forward. "Karen, this is private property. This is an HOA matter," she said. "I've already spoken with." She paused dramatically. "Certain board members." She meant Linda and Frank. Her equally nosy friends who only joined the HOA meetings for gossip and cookies. I'll be monitoring noise levels, Karen continued. And if you go above the community decibel limit, I'll have no choice but to shut this down. My dad walked over, calm but firm. Ma'am, we have a permit for amplified sound until 10 p.m. Karen huffed. County permits do not override HOA guidelines. Yes, they do, my dad replied. Legally. That should have ended it. But Karen simply planted herself near the hedges like a guard dog. Arms folded, glaring at every guest who dared to laugh. Despite her presence, the ceremony began at 6 p.m. as planned. The music was gentle and well within acceptable limits. People cried, clapped softly, and smiled through their tears. Then came the moment, the kiss, the applause, the music swelling softly. And that was when Karen snapped. She fumbled with her walkie-talkie, hissed something unintelligible into it, and stormed toward the soundboard. What she did next nearly ruined the entire wedding. Karen's shoes pounded across the grass like she was charging into battle. Daniel's cousin Jason, who was managing the soundboard, saw her coming and instinctively stepped in front of it like a bouncer guarding a VIP section. Karen jabbed a finger at him. Turn it down. Now. Jason blinked. Ma'am, the volume is fine. It's literally below the limit on the permit. I don't care about your little permit. She snapped. This is my neighborhood. I will not allow a disturbance. I rushed over, still in my wedding dress, veil trailing behind me like a flag of impending doom. Karen, please. It's our wedding. She whirled toward me, and for a moment, I genuinely thought she might try to rip the veil off my head. This event is out of control, she declared. People are clapping loudly. Guests are laughing. Children are screaming. This is complete chaos. The children she referred to were two toddlers chasing bubbles silently near the fence. Daniel joined me, jaw clenched. If you touch the equipment, that's destruction of property. I'll touch whatever I need to touch to restore order. Karen snapped. Then, in an act of pure unfiltered Karen energy, she tried to reach around Jason to lower the volume. Jason blocked her again. You can't do that. Karen shrieked, a real, theatrical horror movie shriek, and stumbled backward into a table of hors d'oeuvres. The table shook, tilting, and several plates of appetizers slid off, landing on the grass in a messy splatter of goat cheese and bruschetta. Gasps erupted from the crowd. Karen popped up dramatically, smears of hummus on her vest. Assault. She cried. I have been assaulted. Nobody had touched her. My grandmother muttered, oh, for heaven's sake. A few guests started filming. Not out of cruelty but because Karen was behaving like a chaotic weather phenomenon that needed documentation. Karen whipped around and pointed at Daniel. I'm calling the police. This wedding is officially shut down. And she did. Right there, in the middle of our ceremony, she dialed 911. The operator must have asked her something reasonable. Because Karen suddenly shouted, yes. A riot. They're causing a riot. The entire yard went silent. Even the toddlers stopped. My dad stepped forward, calm as always. Ma'am, please hang up the phone before you embarrass yourself further. Karen ignored him and marched toward the driveway, loudly describing to the dispatcher how she was under attack by wedding guests. Daniel took my hand. We're not letting her ruin this. The worst part? The police actually showed up. Lights, uniforms, everything. Guests whispered anxiously as the officers stepped into the yard. But what happened next turned the entire situation around, and finally exposed Karen's behavior once and for all. When the patrol car rolled up, Karen practically sprinted toward it, waving her arms like she was stranded on a desert island, and the police were a rescue helicopter. Officers. Officers. Over here. You need to shut this down immediately. The two officers stepped out slowly, assessing the scene, a beautifully decorated backyard. Guests sitting peacefully, soft music playing at a perfectly reasonable level. and a fuming woman covered in hummus. "Ma'am," one officer said carefully, "we received a report of a riot." "Yes," Karen exclaimed. "These people are completely out of control. They're screaming and playing illegal music." One of them pushed me into a table. Jason raised a hand. She fell on her own. Karen spun toward him. "Lies." The other officer approached Daniel and me. "Is this your event?" Daniel nodded. "Our wedding. We have the county sound permit printed inside if you'd like to see it." The officer smiled politely. "That would be helpful." I retrieved the permit from the kitchen and handed it to him. He scanned it, then nodded. "Everything looks in order. And the noise level is nowhere near excessive." Karen's jaw dropped. "What? No. They're lying." The first officer glanced at her vest. "Ma'am, are you with the HOA?" "I am the HOA," she declared. Jason whispered, "She's not." At that moment, as if timed by fate, the actual HOA president, an older man named Greg, walked through the side gate holding a wedding card. He looked confused by the police presence but waved cheerfully. "Beautiful ceremony," he called. Then he noticed Karen. Oh no. What did she do now? Karen froze. "Greg. Good. Tell them the neighborhood rules." Greg sighed deeply. "Karen. There is no rule against having a wedding. And quiet hours start at 10 p.m., not 7. She sputtered. That's not what the handbook says." Greg pulled out his phone, opened the HOA PDF, and held it up like a piece of holy scripture. "It literally says 10 p.m. The officers looked at her. "Ma'am, it seems like everything here is compliant." Karen's face turned redder than the catering strawberries. One officer continued gently, "We do need to ask, did anyone push you?" Karen hesitated, then pointed weakly at Jason. He blocked me." "That's not assault," the officer said. "And you can't interfere with private equipment." Greg cleared his throat. "Karen, you need to go home." The crowd watched as she opened her mouth, twice, trying to form a comeback. None came. Finally, she turned, stomped toward her house, and slammed the door so hard the windows rattled. The officers congratulated us, apologized for the interruption, and left. The rest of the night went beautifully. The music played, people danced, laughter filled the yard. And for the first time in 2 days, I felt at peace. Karen never came outside again. But the neighborhood would be talking about her meltdown for years.